Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well. Today I want to talk about a new gadget, a new toy that I've got recently. I've finally managed to get my hands on one, and that is the Steam Deck. So, as you know, the Steam Deck is Valve's latest piece of hardware that they're putting out. It's just a small computer in handheld form. It allows you to play all of your Steam games on the Steam Deck. Well, if they run anyway, it allows you to play all of your Steam games on the Steam Deck. They finally started to become easily available, and I managed to get my hands on one. I've had it for nearly a week now, and so I just kind of wanted to give my first impressions and talk about mostly good things, a couple of bad things, but really just how much I actually quite love this machine. So the first part that I want to talk about, and really the reason why I got it, is that it's let me play PC games again properly. And what I mean by that is that I used to mainly be a PC gamer. That was my primary, machine for gaming was my PC. And during that time, I wasn't really a console gamer. I had a couple, but PC gaming was the main way that I played games. But since I moved into my current house, the PC doesn't fit downstairs, it's had to go upstairs. And that's kind of really swayed me away from PC gaming because, I don't really want to go upstairs and just spend all that time locked away a few hours every night, just in a room on my own playing games. I'd much rather stay downstairs where, my partner is, my dog is. And so for that reason, I've kind of slowly been pulled away from PC gaming. I sort of converted over to console gaming at that point and playing on the Switch as well. So I've got, PS5, and I mainly play games that way. It's very rare that I'll actually go up to my PC these days, unless we've got like a scheduled game night with the boys, that kind of thing. Then I'll actually go upstairs and play on my PC. But even then, play on console, there's one TV in the living room, and so, sometimes we both want to use it, and there's still some problems there. Now with this Steam Deck, I kind of get the best of both worlds. That's how I think of it anyway. I can be downstairs, I can hang out with the family, and at the same time I get to play PC games, and I sort of can go back to that neglected Steam library that I've had for a really long time. I'm sure everybody's the same. We've got way too many games piling up in our Steam backlog, and this way I actually get to play some of them. But at the same time, I still feel like I'm kind of being social, and I'm hanging out with the people that I want to hang out with. So we'll get into the Steam Deck itself. The first thing that I want to touch on to do with this is that the delivery from Valve was an absolute 10 out of 10 for me. I ordered it on a weekend, I think it was a Saturday, and Valve say 1 to 2 weeks delivery time, and it actually came in 3 working days. It came on the Wednesday. In fact, it's not even 3 working days really, because it came up about 11 o'clock on Wednesday morning. So, 2.5 days really. I don't know if that's the case for everybody, but it's come from the Netherlands all the way to the UK to my house. I had it in my hand in what is essentially 2 and a bit working days. So I was really impressed with that. Talking about the actual build of the machine itself then. So I'm going to compare this to the Switch because that's the only other recent handheld that I've had. And I actually do like it more than the Switch. With the Switch, when it had separate Joy-Cons, I always was a bit worried about them breaking them off. The way you hold it, it doesn't feel quite as good on a Switch. The Steam Deck, the way that it has these grips here, that feels really good. And yeah, like I said, it just feels really solid, especially when compared to a Switch. So I really like that aspect of it. It is big though. Like I don't really have anything to show you to compare it to, but I have quite big hands. It's quite big even in my hands. I'm still kind of getting used to the size, or at least I was for the first few days. I would say now I've had it for a week and I'm more used to playing on it now. But it definitely does feel big. When I was first looking into them, I saw a lot of people saying it was big, but they didn't have a problem right away. As soon as they got it, they were absolutely fine. That's not really been the case for me. It did take me a little while to sort of get used to the size of this, but now that I am used to the size, I think it's fine. And then of course the benefit of the size is, this screen. I was a little bit concerned that when compared to the Switch, you would sort of making the screen bigger would make it look much more pixely and blurry, and the quality of the game would look worse, but I haven't found that at all. I think because this has the power to back up that screen size, so those two combined, it makes it much nicer to play on, in my opinion, than a Switch. The screen, even though it's not OLED, I think it still looks really nice, and it's not too pixely, the resolution works well for me. All in all, yeah, I really like it. The only complaint I have with the Steam Deck at the moment is that when I rotate the right stick, there's this strange clicking sound when I get to a certain point. Now, I'm not really sure what the problem is. I have looked online, and I have seen other people talking about the same problem, and it seems to be an issue where there's a wire that sort of like gets caught as it's spinning around. I don't really know if this is a long-term issue or if it's something that's going to go away. What people say on Reddit and forums and stuff like that varies. So I'm also not sure if I should send it back and get it repaired. Common sense tells me that I should get it repaired, but I'd be worried that then if they were to completely replace the Steam Deck, I would have another issue. Or also I kind of don't really want to be away from it for up to 2 weeks. I don't know, I'm really having a good time with it, so I don't know, we'll see. This video will probably come out about a week after I'm recording it, so it might be that by the time you're watching it, it's already on its way back to Valve or is already with Valve for repair. I'll see what happens, and if you want updates, I will let you know what happens with it. Talking about the back buttons then, just very quickly, and the only reason I'm bringing these up is because I thought they'd be really useful, and I just haven't used them really. I kind of the games that I've played, I've not really found a use to use them. Although I did try Doom Eternal for about 20 minutes just to see how it ran. By the way, it runs really nice now. I was quite surprised, but it runs really well on the Steam Deck. And in that case, I can see you're playing, you want to move around quickly, and you want to jump at the same time, so you don't want to take your thumb off this stick here to jump. I can see that, just pressing that while you've still got your thumb on the stick. I can see that being a good reason to use it. I don't really want to get too into the specs of the product because, that's kind of been done to death at this point, and people can explain that way better than me. I'll just go on to talk about my experience of actually playing games on the machine. And I really, really like how Valve has made it super easy for you to tell what games are going to run quite well on the Steam Deck and what games you're going to have problems with. They're different colored check marks to say what games have been tested. That's really, really user-friendly. I think it's really good. And even the fact that the games that are yellow, to say that they kind of work, but there might be some issues with them. Even games like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't play them at all. So one example is an old game that I tried. It's Space Marine from the Warhammer 40k universe, and that runs fine, but it just gives you a little warning, and that warning is to say that there's a section of the game where you have to enter text, and when you do that, you have to manually bring up the on-screen keyboard yourself. And that's the whole reason why Valve won't give it a green tick. It has the sort of the yellow exclamation point instead. And that's really nice, but also Valve is playing it really safe with what is Steam verified. So that game is perfectly playable. Opening the on-screen keyboard manually yourself is really easy. You just hold the Steam button and press X, and then the on-screen keyboard pops up. So really, it's not a problem at all. And you can play that game perfectly fine. It runs really well. It doesn't drain the battery like crazy. And so you can see how, even though that, for me, is a perfectly fine experience, it's great fun, to Valve, it's not the perfect experience. And this goes on, so any game that needs a launcher will also just automatically get a yellow tick instead of a green one. Things like that sort of it doesn't make it a completely flawlessly smooth experience. Then Valve they just want to highlight it to you, and that's really great. I think that's really, really user friendly. Going on to quick resume then, and I just really like quick resume in general as a feature. I think it's really nice on the Switch. I think it's really nice on the Xbox, the new Xbox, how you can quick resume multiple games. I kind of love that. That really works nicely for me, and it's really good for if you're just playing games in small bite-sized chunks and you just want to get back in to where you were quickly without having to shut everything down and load everything up again. I think it's really good, especially on a handheld, on a PC handheld as well, where you couldn't previously quick resume PC games. And I think it's going to be really useful when tackling giant games, big RPGs and things like that. That's what I like to play. And just, shutting them down with quick resume and going back into exactly where I was, I think that's going to be perfect for me. Okay, I'm going to talk about battery life next, and I'm actually really nicely surprised by the battery life. I was kind of seeing people talk about how they got a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours, depending on the game, and it's possible that it's just the games that I'm playing, but so far, apart from when I ran Doom just to test it, and it kind of said I would get 1.5 to 2 hours on that, everything else I've been playing is, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of playtime. To me, that's really good battery life. One key factor that really, really helps, I think, is being able to change the refresh rate on the screen. So for certain games, and this tends to be 3D games with motion blur where I notice it less, I've actually been putting the refresh rate down to 40 for games like Warhammer, and I tried Metal Gear Solid 5 and I put that into 40 Hertz as well, and it's not really noticeable. I'm not really clued up on, you know, how you perceive different frame rates and things like that, but I don't really notice a huge difference. Like 40 frames seems really smooth still to me, and this is coming from me who, like, on the PS5, if a game's not running at 60, I'm like, ah, that's disgusting. I can't play it not in 60. 30 is the worst. But 40 on this handheld seems fine. So yeah, for 3D games like that, I set it in 40, and I think that has to help with battery. Funnily enough, it's actually the 2D pixel games where I really notice a difference in 40 frames per second, and, you know, it just feels off. So things like that, I've been trying Stardew again because, you know, every time I get a new game playing device, I try at least 2 weeks of Stardew and then just fall out of it. So we'll see if I get further on Stardew this time. But things like Stardew and games like that, I bump it back up to 60. And you might think that it's a pain switching back and forth between 40 and 60 frames. You know, if I switch between games and have to keep changing it, then, you know, it sounds like a pain, right? Well, actually, Valve have another really user-friendly feature where you can set the refresh rate of the screen and, you know, other things like anti-aliasing and things like that. You can set those per game. You can use an overall profile, but the best way that I've found is to have a profile per game, and it just means that, you know, if I'm switching back and forth between Space Marine and Stardew, playing those two games, Dragon's Dogma is another one I'm trying, then it knows to switch between 40 and 60 depending on what I need. That's kind of, you know, that's great for me. Well, you know, well done Valve on that feature, because I think that's really, really good. I've been trying loads of different games on it, and so far they've almost all worked perfectly for me. There are 2 examples of games that haven't worked perfectly for me. The first one is Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition, and the issues I've had with this, it actually worked fine for the first couple of days, and then it seems like there's been an update, an issue with EA. From my understanding, they've changed their Origin launcher to just like an EA Play app now, and it seems to be that since they've changed that, loads of people are having issues, and actually Valve have downgraded that game from the yellow, it works, but there might be a little bit of an issue, to now it's just, you know, now it's just unknown. So I'm quite sad about that, because I couldn't believe that I was getting to play Mass Effect, you know, in my hands on a handheld this size. I could just sit on the sofa and play Mass Effect. That was unbelievable to me. I started a brand new save, and just when you first see the Citadel, that just doing that handheld just in front of me, it was wild. Like it, and this is why I love it so much. It was crazy. So I'm really, really hoping that either Valve or EA, whichever one it is that needs to fix it, fixes it, because I would love to get back into that game and play that more on handheld. It will be amazing. So that's an example of a game that just now doesn't work for me at all. The other example that I have is it's Disney Dreamlight Valley, and that game, it runs fine, but the small issue that I had was that I was trying to get my cloud save. I was trying to log into my cloud save, and I couldn't. When I typed into one box, the username box, it then filled the same detail into the password box. And then if I tried to delete the password box and write my password in there, it then copied my password over to the login. So that was weird. I don't really know whose fault that is, but the way I fixed that was I just downloaded it on my actual PC and logged in there. And then because, you know, Steam cloud servers are great, when I then loaded it on the Steam Deck again, it was all copied across and I got my login back. Other than that though, everything else ran great. It ran really, really perfect. I didn't have to change any settings. I've not had to downgrade any, you know, graphics details or anything like that. The only thing I've changed is, like I've said, on some games I've decided I prefer to run in 40 frames and some games at 60. That's the only thing I've changed. Everything else out of the box works perfectly. So just to give you a rundown of some of the games that I've tried, what I'm currently playing. So I mentioned already Metal Gear Solid 5, I just played one mission just because I couldn't really believe that it would work, and it did, it ran fine. Doom Eternal I've also tried, and that seems to run really nicely as well, but Doom Eternal does drain the battery really, really quickly. You know, it's kind of like an hour and a half to 2 hours compared to what I was getting on other games, so something to watch out for. But it runs fine, and if you're at home, you know, it's not a problem, is it? You just plug it in. Space Marine, that's fun. That's an older game, so that runs really perfectly. It looks really nice. It doesn't drain the battery. You can sort of get 4 hours out of that. That works really well. Stardew Valley, as I said, I'm really hoping this time I get past like 2 in-game weeks, because I want to get into that game and I can't seem to get into it. I'm not really sure what it is. I've tried it so many times over the last couple of years and just haven't stuck with it, but we'll see. Maybe this will be the time. Rogue Legacy 2 is the only game that I've currently bought specifically to play on the Steam Deck, and that's because I really like the first game. The second game I really wanted to get, but you know, like I said, on PC, I didn't want to go upstairs and just lock myself in a room for a few hours. So having it on a handheld, that is perfect for me. So that's one I bought specifically to play on PC. Having a good time with that so far, and you know, runs perfectly. And then the last one I'm playing is Dragon's Dogma, and this again is like another backlog game that I've wanted to play. People rant and rave about Dragon's Dogma and how good it is, and I actually have a friend who, you know, he loves it. He doesn't uninstall it from his machine with how much he likes it, and it sounds like it's a really good RPG, and I like RPGs, so I'm going to try and get into it again this time. So far I've been playing it, runs nicely, and we'll just see how it goes. Games that I want to play on it going forward, well, I really want to get Persona 5. I think that's the kind of game that I think will be really nice handheld. I know we can get it on the Switch now, but you know, the Steam Deck is just, it's going to run it better. I know it is. And also the fact that if I play it on the Steam Deck, I can then go and play it on my actual desktop machine and my save will just be there. That's wonderful. So yeah, I would like to get Persona 5 on the Steam Deck and try it out. I also want to play Divinity Original Sin 2. That's another game in my backlog that I want to get around to playing. I think it'll be fun handheld. I'm not sure how the controls will work handheld, but I want to give it a go. And then finally, Final Fantasy XIV actually is a game that I on and off play, and I think that would be really cool to play it on handheld. I've seen people getting it to run. I do own it on Steam, like the Steam version is the one I have, so I don't think I'll have any issues. But it's just, you know, whether I want to get around to renewing my subscription. But I think it would be cool for, you know, just going through the story and things like that, because it's a really long story in Final Fantasy XIV, and I think, you know, just sat on the sofa, you know, maybe my partner's watching telly. At the moment it's I'm a Celebrity. If anybody's in the UK and they're like I'm a Celebrity, she's really into that.
I always find it funny seeing someone hit the deck. It's just funny. It just...
Playing through the Final Fantasy XIV story while sat in the living room, I think sounds really good. And then, you know, if I need to do a really hard dungeon or something like that, I can always go upstairs, can't I? But are there any games that you guys think I should play? I've only had the Steam Deck for a week, but there's plenty of people out there that have had it for much, much longer. So if you have any recommendations of games that work really well on the Steam Deck and you think are a really good experience handheld, I really love that it's handheld. Like, I can't get over that. Then yeah, let me know what it is, because I would love to try some games out, and maybe I could make a video on games that I think run really well, and I could make a video on games that you guys wanted me to play and said were good, and I can tell you how I found them. Okay, well, those have been my first impressions of the Steam Deck. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It's been recording for nearly half an hour, so I hope I can cut it down to not a horrendously long video to watch. I really hope you liked it though. I'm still figuring out what direction my channel is going in. I've been trying all sorts of stuff, but one thing I haven't tried is talking about games. But gaming is it's a big hobby of mine, so if you guys like this and you want to see more gaming videos, then that would be really great. Please let me know, because I think I would really enjoy making videos on games, but I just wasn't sure if the audience was out there for me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a really good rest of your day, and I will hope to see you in the next video.